Hey friend, welcome to another video on Microsoft Power Platform. This time around we'll look at forms. There are a few forms components that we could be using that will make life a lot easier in displaying data, updating data, and inserting new data. As a data component, we will be using an Excel file because sometimes you don't need a fancy database to do the work. Sometimes Microsoft Excel or a file like that is quite enough for the purpose that you have at hand or the scenario that you have at hand. So yeah, we'll start out here with apps. We are looking to create an app. We're going to do everything from scratch today. So we could either go from home or from apps. We go from home and we will create a blank application because we want to highlight as much as possible what goes on. In a previous video, I generated the same application that I'm about to build from an Excel file, and when I generated said app, I got the ability to show everything in a list, to edit records, to insert records, and even delete and sort them and even search them. I think so, a lot of capability. We are here to learn today how all of these components come together, so that's why we're going to do everything from scratch. But if you feel like, hey, I just want an app with all those sweet features that you just mentioned, Chris, you should be selecting to generate an app from an Excel file. But yes, let's start from this blank canvas app. We hit create. Let's call this something, Chris, demo forms. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to target a tablet to do so. We could be targeting a mobile phone. I choose a tablet. The first thing we need to do is to connect a data source. So we're going to click this icon here that looks like a database to add the data. Now we have various connectors that is capable of talking to our Excel file in the cloud. We will be using a specific one. We will use a drive connector. So that is OneDrive for business. So you can just type drive or OneDrive and you will find it. You could also be using an Excel connector to do the same thing. So OneDrive for business is a connection that we've already set up. So we're going to select that. Once we've selected it, we need to choose an Excel file. So this is going to list all my directories. So I need to find exactly the file I need. I will select the file I need. That could either be a file that I've downloaded from Microsoft Docs, or it could be a file with proper columns that I formatted to look in a way so that I can consume it like it was a proper data source. I hit connect. This will connect everything. So now I got my data source connected, and that's nice. I want to add a gallery component because the gallery is capable of showcasing my data. So there. Got a gallery component, that's excellent. If I want, I can make this full screen. So I just need to make sure that this arrow looks like so. There, now we have it full screen. One of the first things we need to do is to select our data source. So we could either select the component or we could just deal with that pop-up that you saw when I did this. I'm going to click here. Let's select a data source. We have flooring estimates. We're going to select that. Once we have a data source, you saw how it was immediately able to deal with all the various fields. It was able to choose those for us. Now, as usual, when it comes to gallery components, you can go into fields and do edit and select exactly the fields that you're interested in. So this will show an image, it will show me a name and a category and so on and so forth. This doesn't do much so far, but we're going to get into the habit of running our app often just to see our progress, see what works, what doesn't work. And yeah, so here you can see various things. We can click this navigational arrow, but it doesn't do much. But at least we can scroll through all of that data that we have. The next step we want to do is to create an edit screen. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go into this tree view. Once we go into the tree view, we're able to add new screens. We're going to add a new screen. We're going to rename it the first thing we do. So we're going to call it edit screen. So once it has a new name, it is ready for me to add a form to it. So we're gonna drag and drop this edit form. This edit form doesn't have a data source yet. We can change that. That's our flooring estimates. That is great. But one more thing we need to do is to go in and select something called the item property. Before we do so, we will do a slight rename because I like good naming. Remember that, folks. You should have good variable names for things. I'm gonna call that gallery flooring, right? So what the component is and maybe some context on what kind of data that you're showing. That's a good naming practice. Gallery flooring, we're gonna head back to our second screen. So once we go in here, we should select item. In fact, we can even do that. It helps if I have the actual component selected. This is item. What we want to select in item is gallery flooring dot selected. Now this will contain exactly the data I'm interested in. So flooring estimates, that's great. We need to do one more piece of information. We need to add the fields that this should contain. So these are the fields that I will possibly be able to edit. So category, image, name, overview, and price. That is all the fields available to me. So this is showing me various fields. That's great. So you can see depending on what type of field, it's giving me a different component look. And I also want a button. So a button will be able to save. I'm going to do that. What did I do wrong here? Image position. No, that's not correct. So yeah, always look at the error warnings and see if there's something that you can do. So at this point, we've laid out a bunch of controls by going in and selecting the fields that is already available on this resource. We have a save button that will be able to do things. There is an action here on select that we're going to do, which is submit form. And because we want to make sure that our form has a good descriptive name, so first thing we're going to do, instead of form 1, we're going to call it EditForm 1. That's not the best name, and at least we are saying it's an edit form, right? We go in here, go back here, we say EditForm 1. At this point, we have added a form capable of saving itself, and we probably want to navigate to a specific page. Once we're done, we can always use the tree view. We're not calling it page, but we're calling it screen 1. That's our first main screen. Screen 1. As the second argument, we can have a transition, and that's nice, right? You want the user to have a nice experience, maybe fading, cover right, and so on. We're going to opt for fade. So that's good. So now we have a behavior of trying to save that record and navigating back to our main screen. We can also improve this by adding a title, but so far we want to be proud of our progress, right? So we click here, we make sure the navigation works. Is it working? What are we missing? We actually didn't hook up the screen. So one thing we need to do is not only select parent, but we need to expand this a little bit and actually do a navigate here. Navigate, what is the screen called? It is called edit screen, right? Edit screen, great. And maybe some transition effect. Can't miss out on the semicolon after the first statement. You need that one. Yeah, let's do fade here as well. Kind of like the fade effect. Don't judge me. There. Now let's see if this navigation works. No item to display. So why is that? Flooring estimates fields are set. For some reason, the item information here has been erased. That happens sometimes when you are trying to do things, that you jump from one component to the next and it loses the information. Now you see that this is immediately populated, right? So it knows exactly what is being selected in the gallery. That's one of the parts that I really love about the editor here in powerapps, that it has the capability to showcase immediately my current state. So yeah, let's go back here, let's select this, and you see that everything is pre-populated, and this one even allows me to select a file. So that's super cool, right? It immediately recognizes I am dealing with an image. If I don't want that image, I can select something else. Everything else is pre-filled, so I'm just gonna change call this creams for some reason. Just for the sake of it, we're just going to test if saving works, right? Hitting save, and it says creams here, which is excellent, right? Do we actually believe that this happened? Well, we can go back to our drive here. We can go back to our drive and our source file, and we can open it up. And it says creams. That's great. It's actually able to connect to my Excel file and do what it needs to do. Remember to close this down if you feel like opening it mid-app development, because if you don't, it might actually have some kind of locking mechanism and you will get a network error as you're trying to interact with that Excel file. Okay, super. We have edit functionality in place. What we want to also add is something called insert, right? And for insert to work, we need to prep the form in a certain way. Meaning what? What is Chris saying? Well, you could, for example, you could either have a pen here that says add, like so. You'll have it on every single row. If you feel like, wait a minute now, I'm editing something for the entire gallery, should that really be like that? Well, what you can do instead is you can add an icon at the top here. Nope, now we're in the wrong section. if I type icon under components, then we just need to find the proper symbol for that. Add. It's on top. Great. So I can add the add icon here, and I can make sure that once people tap this or click this, something interesting could happen. So I could do new form. This is a way for me to say a specific form, edit form 1, you should be in a new state. So this is a way for me to communicate to this edit form that we're about to use that you are actually used in the context of being inserted into a new item. But we also need to make sure that we navigate now to this edit page. So double check what that thing is called. I keep forgetting. That's why it's so great that I can go back and check. It's called edit screen, right? Keep on typing edit screen, forgetting the semicolon again. And now this time around, let's do that and see. We want the fade. We like the fade. Okay, so now I have mentally prepared it, if you will, that this will be an edit form. And so let's see what will actually happen if we do that. Let's make sure that we are standing on the first screen again, like so. And let's see if I check that, I get a completely empty edit screen. Now category, let's say computer, name, mouse, overview, to click with, price. I don't actually use a mouse. I don't know about you folks. Okay, let's say it costs $5, right? I could be selecting this to select the picture as well, or image. I don't have that at hand. Let's see what happens. Hit save. It's thinking about it. Do I actually have a computer mouse? Ooh, sweet, right? It was able to add that information at the bottom of the list. That is great. And maybe this is 2 mice, right? So instead of $5, these are 2 mice. Maybe I should even be able to write that. 2 mice, $10. Save that. Now it's doing an update operation, and you see it's smart enough to recognize it's doing an update operation. So yeah, that's actually everything I had in this video today, that you are able to use OneDrive, connect to an Excel file, treat that as a database, and you're able to, via 2 screens, you're able to get update and insertion functionality. And you saw how little work it was to achieve all that. And imagine that I changed that data source into a data table instead. I mean, this is amazing, right? I mean, I've been a professional developer for 15 years, and I can tell you I have never built an app with this much capability in what, 5 minutes? So yeah, showing you a gallery with data that I could customize the way I see fit. I added navigation functionality to a detail page, and yeah, I've added a capability to add, and I just need to remember to say, well, you're a new form, right? And how come I'm doing that? Well, if we look at what we have here, if we look at the edit form, you see that its default mode is edit. So I'm just overriding the default mode of the edit, right? When I'm trying to insert. But under normal circumstances, it will just be treated as that of an edit field. And because I'm doing this, you know, unless I explicitly say that this is for insertion, it will take that selected item, present it, and because it's in edit default mode, it will just try to update the item. So everything is just super smart. So I hope you liked this video, but yeah, if you are not a developer, you don't want to meddle with all these details, I recommend, let's save this first, save that. Okay, then I actually recommend having a look here. Let's head a step back. I've saved this. If you're not a developer, you just want a generated app, click Excel, do the same thing essentially, right? Just go to OneDrive, find that Excel file, and you know, you will get everything generated for you, and you can just customize from there. What I showed you today is doing all the heavy lifting yourself, but even as a developer, I have to admit I'm impressed. This was super fast. So thank you for watching. I'd really appreciate some kind of like on this if you like what you're seeing, comments on how I can improve things, and if you're so inclined, I'd love a subscribe. So hopefully I'll see you in a new video. Bye for now.